Down in 6. Hooker back to throw. Fires long down the field. There's Hyde. He's got it at the 20, to the 10, to the checkerboards. Touchdown. Bombs away, Tennessee.
Boy, Tennessee housed Kentucky. And I don't know how good Kentucky is, but, Tennessee put it on them. And I don't know if you all noticed, but I moved Tennessee to my number one spot in my rankings over the weekend. Tweeted that out. I believe that was Sunday morning. And I want to be clear on this. It wasn't because they were flashier or anything along those lines. I just think that to this point, they've earned the number one spot. They have more quality wins now, in particular because they got that Kentucky win. They handled LSU in Death Valley. They beat Alabama. Now they've beaten Kentucky, and they are really good. They've got a great quarterback in Hendon Hooker. They're the number one scoring offense and total offense in America. They're the number two passing offense in America. They've got great wide receivers, and they've earned that spot. So that's why I put them at number one. It wasn't because Ohio State didn't have the lead in the fourth quarter against Penn State or the style of game that played, because like I told you already earlier, there's a lot to be impressed with from Ohio State's win against Penn State on the road. And was it better than the win over Kentucky? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But to this point, I think that the resume wins out. And I also believe that the College Football Playoff Committee on Tuesday night is going to put Tennessee at number one. So Tennessee is going to be number one for me. Now, having said that, I still believe that Tennessee is flawed. There is an Achilles heel. I talked about the offensive line for Ohio State having to play better in order to be a national champion caliber offensive line and team for Ohio State. Well, there are flaws for Tennessee as well, and they're mainly on the defensive side. I don't think you can just whistle past the graveyard when it comes to the defense for the Volunteers. So they're now 83rd in the country in total defense. And I think more specifically, if you want a better, more accurate picture of what they are as a defense, they're 40th in the country in yards per play. Okay, and I think that that's a more accurate description. Now, is that terrible? No, I don't think it's terrible. I'm not telling you that they're the worst defense out there, but it's also not close to what we see in a yards per play variety from teams like Georgia, teams like Alabama, teams like Michigan, teams like Ohio State. And those are the teams that you would likely have to go through, and we know they're going to have to go through one of them this week on the road at Georgia in order to potentially win a championship, whether it's in your conference or a national championship. So I still have my questions, even though I put them number one, about whether they are national championship caliber. And based on these numbers, they're not. So what has to change for them, in my mind, to become real national title contenders, like a real threat to take home the national championship? Well, one of two things has to happen. And I've talked about this, prior on this podcast. One of the things that could happen is Hendon Hooker goes full Joe Burrow. Okay? You go full Joe Burrow and you're just like, phew, the offense takes off. And Hendon Hooker becomes a meteoric rise to the Heisman Trophy, 60 touchdowns, 5,600 yards, 76%. And it's like, you can't defend him? Okay. Then it's like you tip your cap and you say, yes, then that guy can carry you to a national championship. But even then, by the way, and Hooker's not playing Joe Burrow 2019 level. He's playing great. And he's certainly in the race for the Heisman Trophy, but not that level. That's some of the best quarterback play that we've ever seen in college football history. And it took that level of play for a team to go and win, 15-0 and win the national championship, in part because that defense wasn't great. And by the way, that defense was better than this Tennessee defense. That's an issue. Tennessee, again, 40th in yards per play. That LSU defense, 30th in yards per play. It's not a huge difference, but it's there. And I think that we would all agree that that LSU offense was better than what Tennessee's is. Now, we'll see. And what's interesting to me is that we're going to find out right now. So can Hooker take his game to the next level? Can he become Joe Burrow of 2019? Well, when did Joe Burrow of 2019 become that player? It's when they beat Alabama on the road in early November in their 9th game in a 1-2 AP poll matchup. They beat that Tide team, and from then on, he became just like a rocket ship, and that team's confidence level increased, and it went to 10, if you will, or 100. And that's exactly the opportunity in front of Tennessee this week, okay? They're going to face Georgia. It's on the road, just like LSU at Bama. That's a really good Georgia team with a good defense, just like that Bama team. And Hooker's going to have that ability. All right, so there's a lot of things that are like reminiscent of that year, in particular for this comparison. But I do think even if Hooker goes to that level, we do need to see Tennessee's defense improve just a little bit. One last thing that I would say on that is that you've heard me now take 2 teams that are my top 2 teams in the country and question their ability to win the national championship today on this podcast. And it had me thinking like, is my level too high? Is my bar of expectation too high for Ohio State and their offensive line, for Tennessee and their defense? It might be, okay? So I might be skewed, and I just want to let you guys know that, because think about it. Think of the run of national champions we've had. We have had Trevor Lawrence, a historically great prospect. We had the 2019 LSU team. They went 15-0 with Joe Burrow, who played better than we've ever seen. Then we saw an offense that was even better than the LSU offense the next year when Bama won in the COVID year with Devontae Smith and Mac Jones and Najee Harris. They won every single national award you could win on offense just within those 11 players. You know, it's O-line, wide receiver, running back. I mean, they had it all. Then last year, we had a defense in Georgia that had 6 guys drafted off of it, right? Like, this is unusual stuff. So the caliber of the national champion of the last 4 champions has been really high. And I will say this, I'm measuring all of these teams against that bar. And I don't know if any one of these teams is going to require another team to go to that level to win this year. So I'm saying Ohio State's got to improve on the O-line. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I'm saying Tennessee's defense has to improve. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I'm saying right now, based on what we've seen in the last 4 champions, I think that they might have to go to that level. So Tennessee, they've got to improve defensively just a little bit, and then Hendon Hooker is going to have to go to another level.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.